So good morning to most of you and good afternoon to uh, two or three of you. Nice to see some of you from down under. Okay, so same format as usual. I'll talk for 10 minutes or so, 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll sit for about 40 minutes and then 10 minutes at the end to be able to, for a few of you, to say something that you noticed about your practice or within the practice. So last week I had a little quote from Sayadaw U Tejaniya about relaxation. And he said, feeling relaxed is being free from expectations and anxiety. So it's a little bit of a different definition from relaxation than we might be familiar with. And last week I talked about expectations in relation to relaxation. And this week, just to touch on anxiety. I think it's a big subject, anxiety. Affects us all at some point, or maybe many points probably during our lives. And it's a mental phenomena, though it will affect the body too. Mental, there will be sensations, but yeah, predominantly feelings. So the first step is the mind being okay with what's happening, being aware of anxiety, and what's it like, having some curiosity about how the body and mind are affected. I have an image in my own mind that I'll share, and it's a little bit like flies, or possibly bees, but more like flies being caught in a jar. So there's this buzzing or zizzing feeling or sensation, but also accompanied by a feeling that can be quite a mild feeling of dread, or it can be quite strong. So I see it sort of anxiety as having that sort of cluster of feelings, sensations. And it can be difficult to stay with, can be one of those ones that's not straightforward to stay with, to just be aware without collapsing into it. I'm so anxious, or identifying with ourselves as that mind state, taking the person to be the mind state. Yeah, or the other thing we can do with an unpleasant state like anxiety is to respond with aversion, just not want it to be there, just try and push it away. So the right view perspective that can help us take it more gently. This is a normal occurrence for the mind in these circumstances. It's natural. It's not something wrong. It's not a mistake. Natural occurrence in the body mind, under certain conditions. So every time we notice anxiety, the first thing is to just recognize it and name it. Oh, this is what's happening. And the second thing is that curiosity about what's this experience like. It's easy to treat certain experiences not as experiences, but as if they're sort of outside the scope of awareness. I can't be aware of this. That's the implicit view, or maybe explicit. But actually just treating anxiety, this is just another experience. Some experiences are pleasant, some experiences are unpleasant, and a vast number of them are quite neutral, tend to pass us by. So talking over this this week with a friend, they were saying, well, what's the relationship between anxiety and expectations? And does anxiety arise because of expectations? The expectation that, oh, this will be difficult, or I don't know how this will be. So an uncertainty or an apprehension about what might happen, what we expect to happen. So there's that relationship between the two. But also sometimes there's very similar sensations, but the mind state is different, and we call that excitement. So that relationship between anxiety and excitement. Sometimes the sensations are very, very similar, but there's a lack of dread often with excitement, and the story can be quite different. But both times there's a need to settle back into what's happening in the present, not spin off into thoughts, stories, ideas about something that's not yet happening. So sometimes we can identify those thoughts around anxiety, the content, if you like, of anxiety. And sometimes, and I would say maybe quite often, we can't. And that's perhaps when it feels more like the subtle but can be quite intense body mind, when the nervous system has been aroused in some way. And that's also conditioned. We can't control what happens in the nervous system, but we can learn to be aware of it, to be with it very gently and in an open way, of different sensations of humming or vibrating or fizzing, different feelings. So it's important not to over focus on anything in our experience, but particularly when it's unpleasant. And with anxiety, actually, there can be quite a lot going on. So there can be quite subtle sort of mental sensations that can be very interesting if we have a helpful view, a helpful perspective on them. So a couple of things that can assist that. So one is perhaps really gently taking awareness through the breath into the whole body. So actually, the whole body is filled with an awareness of what's happening, and that can be that can assist in the relaxation. And then the second thing is completely different, is to recognize that unpleasant and that aversive mind. Recognize that we're finding the experience unpleasant, and see if you can identify how aversion is manifesting, how not wanting is manifesting, and how the mind is relating to particular experience. It's very easy for the aversion to go unrecognized, because it can feel like, oh, this is normal. This is just a normal, natural sort of mind state. Yeah. So putting a little bit more emphasis, perhaps this is a different thing, but a little bit more emphasis on the mind that's aware, rather than that over focus on the sensations and the feelings that make up the experience of feeling anxious. Let's leave it there for today.